Hey, everybody. Welcome to episode 10. We got a special guest for you. I am Chris Murphy, and with me is Patrick Sukup with the Fort Collins Fellows podcast. We are continuing our June food restaurant scene, and with us is the owner of DC Oaks and Penrose Tap House, Gerard Boyle. Welcome, buddy, to Fort Collins Fellows.
Great thanks for having me, gentlemen.
As you can see, Gerard is in a closet working hard today in his office, so that's where all the magic happens, right? In the food and restaurant scene.
That is the biggest distraction from food and beverage is all the office stuff, which you guys probably know that. Yeah.
Absolutely. You're too busy getting on the floor and meeting people and making them feel at home and welcome.
Exactly. Yeah. That's where the focus needs to be.
Well, Gerard, our previous episode on the restaurant scene, we did Bistro de Teal, which was like farm to table. Your two restaurants are quite a bit different, and it's a good contrast here in Fort Collins. And, I swear to God, you must pay real estate agents to show up to DC Oaks, because every time I go to DC Oaks, there's just a ton of realtors and everybody in the real estate industry. And then you've got Penrose Tap House that's down in Old Town that opened up in the middle of the pandemic. So we'll dive into that. And then you used to be a part owner of Sonny Lubick Steakhouse, which is like a staple here in Fort Collins. So Gerard, I'm just going to let you start out and just, tell our listeners and our viewers, how you got into this crazy world of restaurants and openings. You talk to people about, hey, should I open a restaurant? And usually you're like, oh my God, you must be crazy. But tell us a little bit of the backstory on how you got started, and we'll go from there.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah, no, I was a student at Colorado State and was working at a couple restaurants in Old Town, or at the Armadillo in Old Town. Sorry about that. And we had learned how to serve and bartend, and ended up going to CB Potts over off of Campus West, which was a pretty big, at the time, it's no longer out there, but it was the place to be. It was a great place for families. And
don't worry about it. We'll let you take care of that. And we're not going to edit this out either, Gerard. This is good stuff.
No, I want this in here. Yeah, this is exactly what the day is like.
By the way, while you do the Armadillo,
I was just thinking about that.
Dude, man, I remember the Armadillo when I was a kid. Okay, quick story. I don't know. Anyways, I'll tell it. But I played in a t-ball game when I was like 8 years old, and afterwards we went to the Armadillo, and I was with like a bunch of family friends, but not my parents. Full disclosure, I got sick all over the table.
Oh my gosh, that's
at the Armadillo. Not because of the food; it was totally separate. But
that's crazy. No, it's actually Elizabeth Hotel is that location right now.
That's right.
And actually, just to kind of give you a little offshoot, we had the Lucio family owned the Armadillo. And Richard and Brenda are currently our neighbors at the Exchange at Penrose. They own Vatos Tacos. Yeah, yep. So it's kind of been cool they kind of gave me my first shot to get hired in the business, and then kind of came around, and now we're, both in the restaurant community as operators. So
how special for them, honestly, being able to see kind of like, an influence they might have had in your life, and then being able to see kind of how successful you've become with launching two very, very well-known and sought-out restaurants. That's got to be pretty special from their perspective.
Yeah.
Like, we had this, hand in helping this. That's great.
Yeah. Well, we had, and it is, it's a kind of a small restaurant community in town where it seems like there's a lot of restaurants, but there's, I think, a kind of a group of restaurants that are kind of seeming, or it might be the real estate side of things where there's challenges to operating in some of those spots, but the Lucios are smart. They make great decisions, and they're well connected for operating great restaurants. But anyway, so yeah, I was Armadillo a couple of years, ended up at Potts, and really enjoyed working there in that atmosphere. And when I graduated, I had a degree in liberal arts and did some job interviewing and some different areas, some with sales and whatnot, and finished up the interviews, had a couple offers, and I'm like, wait a minute, I'm gonna make less money at a real job than I'm currently making waiting tables. And so Kevin Cheesley, who currently is the owner of, he was an owner of CB Potts. That was probably 30 years ago. And then, but he owns the CB Potts at Collindale. He is a great mentor. And he said, hey, gee, why don't you hop on with us and we'll get you into some management training. And so that was a good opportunity for me, and ended up going to Denver, opened up a couple restaurants, which is a big undertaking. We had great support from it was a corporate family-owned restaurant chain. So there was a lot of support, not only on the openings, but just in every aspect of operating a restaurant, whether it was costing, purchasing, labor, doing opportunities to do different promotions and advertising. So, and in hindsight, it's funny because that's where I met all my partners at DC Oaks. We all worked together at CB Potts. And so I was at Potts for about 20 years and left there, I guess, probably 8 or 9 years ago with the intent of opening, trying out my own thing. And I had approached a couple of the guys that I worked with, some friends, Anthony Gray, Tony, he's a great chef. He's a lifelong chef. And TJ Compton is our brewer here at DC Oaks. Also like a very skilled high level brewer. So it was just kind of nice to be able to check those two boxes, as I don't have to worry about food quality and the beer quality. It's good. It's better than good. And those guys both come in and work it every day. So it's been, I think that just kind of gives a lot of continuity to the whole brand when you have quality food and beverage.
That trust from those guys is huge.
Yeah. And we're all, we had worked together for so long that we were probably at a certain point, had similar ideas about how we could do things differently, or in our opinion, how we could do things better than what we were currently doing at Potts. But we really enjoyed the atmosphere at Potts, and the amount of information we learned was large amount of information and very valuable for us.
Like what did you learn? Like what are some of, like, you hit on a couple of those, because for somebody who's looking to open a restaurant or run a restaurant, and you've obviously done this and been involved with it, what are some tips, or what are the things you're like, I would never do that again, or like, holy shit, we did that wrong?
Yeah, I think we had those moments where we're like, why are we doing this? And so we at Oaks, one thing that we probably have a handful of sayings that we can always come back to kind of keep us on course, but we want to make sure we're worried about the right stuff and not the wrong stuff. And for us, worrying about the right stuff is 3 things. It's quality food and beverage, it's remarkable hospitality experience for our guests, and it's a cool atmosphere and vibe in the 4 walls. What we don't worry about coupons. We don't worry about discounts. We don't get caught up on sales contests for our staff that are internal that the guests may or may not pick up on. And, you may have had an experience where you go out to eat and I'll say, well, I'll have a beer. And the server says, are you sure you don't want to try a margarita today? And I said, no, I'm just going to have a beer. And it's this hard sell.
Yeah.
Because there's a lot of levels to it, but there's a corporate deal where, hey, if we sell this much of this certain tequila and a margarita, then the company's getting a discount on pricing, or there's marketing dollars or what have you. So at the store level, on a large company, it makes a lot of sense. But for us, I want you to come in and we can help guide you to a menu selection for food, liquor, wine, or beer. But I really just want people to come in and enjoy our atmosphere of the great hospitality that we offer and eat and drink what you want to eat and drink. So that's kind of what we really focus on, is worrying about checking those 3 boxes when folks come in.
Well, I think you're probably nailing it pretty good as far as that goes. And that's one of the things that Chris and I are all about, attraction marketing, right? Having people come to you and want to come and work with you, not because you're a pushy salesperson, but because they like you as a person, they trust what your knowledge is, and they want to do business with you. So kind of flipping the script as far as, cold calling, door knocking, no thanks. We'd much rather people want to and come work with us. And that's the same thing with DC Oaks is, man, there's not a time that I'm going there, whether it's lunch or dinner, not necessarily a wake, because Fort Collins, I don't think has that, but unless it's a Friday, Saturday, Thursday evening. But generally speaking, like, it is a very full restaurant with a cool vibe that people enjoy going to and having some food.
Yeah. And that's been a bit of a work in progress. There was certainly a leap of faith when we were opening. And, to kind of loop back to Chris's question about starting a restaurant, I think everybody's pretty in tune with, I'm not, telling you anything you don't want to say, hey, you got to have quality food and beverage, great hospitality, and a cool atmosphere. That's like probably the first three things that somebody would, work towards if they're opening a restaurant.
Right.
The things you don't know about, right now, some of the bigger challenges in our industry are the costs. I mean, inflation's hitting everybody, but what our challenge is to try to figure out, all right, how can we take an item like a lime? Okay. So let's see, in the fall, limes are probably about $30 a case. And for the last 4 months, they've been $110 plus for a case of limes. So, if you think about, that's just like one product. There's a lot going on in the world. We know that wheat prices are going to be blown up. The crop yields will probably be down this growing season because of fertilizer shortages. Diesel fuel prices are going up. So that also comes into food production, cost increases for restaurants. So our challenge is, all right, how can we absorb some of that and not pass everything along to our guests? Because before you know it, we'll have a $20 hamburger, which is burger, bun, and, lettuce, tomato. So that just doesn't work. So we're trying to figure out, hey, how can we kind of like really massage some of this price increases, and how do we eliminate just a full-on pass-through to our guests, because we don't want to do that. So that's like the big challenge. And one of the things that we, myself and my group learned, is we figured out how to run profitable cost of goods or costing for food and beverage. And so that is a bit of an education to really grasp, because, if you do inventory 12 times a year each month, or some companies do it every 4 weeks, so you get it 13 times a year, you only get to practice 12 times a year. And that's not a lot of repetition when you're putting that whole program together. Same goes for labor. We can look at labor costs. Those go up every year in Colorado for, I think we're on year 5 right now, or 4, where it was voted in to minimum wage increase for people. And we're not paying people minimum wage. Are not.
Yeah.
What's that?
No, I was just gonna say the wage thing is interesting. Like, I was listening to somebody the other day talking about inflation, and I'm curious, after you brought it up, about that seems to be one of those things that sticks. Like, once you pay people more money, you can't take that away from them. Like commodities prices, those will fluctuate. Fuel will come down. Hopefully, you're talking about fertilizer, but as a restaurant owner, is that something that you're just like, hey, we got to deal with this, and we can't take that money away? How are you guys dealing with that?
Well, I think there's probably 2 buckets of wages that we look at. So one of them is mandated wage increases by the government, whether it's federal or state, or even some of the, Denver's got a different minimum wage than the rest of the state. But that's an equal playing field for every operator. Like, you cannot go to a restaurant down the street and they're going to be paying people less for any of the minimum wage jobs that are out there in a restaurant. And by that, I mean, in Colorado, we have what's called a tip credit wage. So the business receives a credit of $3.02 per hour for anyone that's earning tips. Okay. So instead of $12.56 minimum wage for a server, bartender, a busser, it's $9.54 plus tips. If they don't make that $3.02 per hour, then the company will supplement the amount that they're short. So, and we calculate that every payroll. There is not a single server, bartender, expo, busser in our restaurants that is even close to not making that money. They're making a lot of money. So, and we don't pay any of our hourly folks, any of our kitchen team hosts, they're not getting paid minimum wage, because the market isn't at a minimum wage market anymore. It's higher. So the second bucket is, where's the pay range for our hourly team members? And I think we have to be responsible and efficient and know, what are people getting paid to be a line cook, to be a sous chef, to be a dishwasher, to be a host. At DC Oaks and Penrose, we want to be on that top third of wages in our city, because it will attract some of the better people. As an employer, I also look at it and, if we have a dishwasher that is making, say, $15 an hour, which we don't, but that's $30,000 a year on a 40-hour week. That is not a lot of money. You can't, where are you living? Where you can't get an apartment. It's so
living in the closet.
I know they're like in the closet with me, but I want them to be, I want our staff to not be stressed about the money, not have to feel like they got to do 2 jobs. So that's one of the reasons we pay our people more. We want them to enjoy coming here and feel like they're valued. And, it is a good environment to work in. We've got over 100 people work here at DC Oaks and about the same at Penrose, but wow. I want them to know that when they come in to work, hey, they enjoy being here and they also feel valued and appreciated when they get their paycheck. So that's kind of like that second bucket, which is our decision on how much we can pay people. I know if we're bringing in great people, then it kind of like, what's the wood stove analogy? You don't get heat from a wood stove till you put wood in it, right? So we got to keep feeding the wood into that stove to get the heat, which is paying great wages to great people. And then their production helps us, get an increase in sales and, keep our place full.
No, that's interesting. Yeah, like the whole breakdown. And obviously with COVID, you've had to get real creative and kind of tackling those kind of challenges, I could say. But Jordan, I want to kind of steer the conversation to, you opened up DC Oaks on the southeast side of Fort Collins. And that is, anybody knows Fort Collins is booming. There are so many people moving to that area. Are you going to open another restaurant? What is your kind of thoughts on, the growth of Fort Collins and how that is going to affect your business? Hopefully it's going to mean better business for you, but it could also be competition, coming closer to you. I know they're doing a lot of construction right around DC Oaks and they're building it up and it's moving into Timnath, but what are your kind of takes on the growth of that area of Fort Collins and how does that affect your business? And what are your concerns or what are some of the things you're excited about?
Yeah, I think it's funny to look back, Chris, because we just had our 5th year anniversary at the beginning of May. So we're probably 8 years ago. Well, it's got to be long. It was probably 9 years ago. I was driving up from Denver and I drove by this site at DC Oaks and it was a farm field.
Yeah.
Had Josh Kearnsey's name on the sign. I said, Josh Kearnsey, I know him. We'll call him up. And so we kind of hammered through some stuff for a good year and a half on this site. And I think a lot of people are like, enough with the growth. Well, I can't really say that because I can't be the last guy in and then shut the door behind me. Be like, all right, we're good. We don't want any competitors. It's just the reality of, Fort Collins is growing. Northern Colorado is growing. There's talk of the Riverwalk, a Top Golf, possibly in Timnath, all these different things. Right now, we're fortunate because everything that filled in around DC Oaks is some pretty high density housing with a lot of different apartment complexes. There's a lot of single family home neighborhoods that just surround us for miles and miles. There's so many rooftops around here that help support our business. And we also know there's a lot of schools that are surrounding us. So we know if you have schools, there's a lot, that is kind of a marker for us that we saw early on that's just said, I think there was 11 schools within like 3 miles of our location. Maybe it was 5 miles, but there's 11. Yeah. So because Fort Collins High School, Fossil, elementary, junior high, there's so many. And so that's just a good marker, like an indicator for us. Hey, if you're around schools, you're around families, you're around people and neighborhoods. Yeah. But as far as the growth goes, I welcome it. You can't, if you're losing sleep about your competitors and how they're going to operate or what they're going to do, again, I think I'd probably put that onto the side of worrying about the wrong stuff because we can't control that. What we can't control is the 3 things that have helped make us successful. It's interesting though to look and some of these sites, and I kind of go back to that 9 years ago at Guernsey where I'm just like, man, are we like at that same point where all this farm, like, is this everything just going to get filled in from Longmont up to Cheyenne? I don't know. It's possibly, I don't know. But again, I can't worry about that too much. I think as the population grows, there's going to be a greater demand for good restaurants. So I think there's going to be enough of that pie to continue to split up for some good operators. And there's going to be some operators that don't succeed. And that's, part of business in any business. So I certainly don't want anyone to fail, but that is a reality that it's a difficult business to succeed in sometimes. And the last couple of COVID years have really, proven that. As far as growth, I don't see us really doing a whole lot of growing. The last couple of years were, I think right now, our short-term goal over the next couple of years is just, let's get our feet under us again, which we've done, and, just really be conservative with how we're operating so that we can, because the unknown of that COVID and how it came upon everybody it was difficult to get through and difficult to predict. In hindsight, you look at it, like you guys too. I mean, you look back, you're like, oh, okay, yeah, that happened. And you can look at decisions you made as they were good or they were not as good. But right now, we don't know if there's something else coming down. Monkeypox, whatever it's called. I mean,
So you've got your Southeast location, and then you kind of have a cool contrast of what Fort Collins is, right? You have Southeast Fort Collins, which is all growing, new developments, good, affluent households all surrounding you, and then you're right in the heart of Old Town. And Old Town is historic Fort Collins, where if you're going to have the most density, the most opportunity potentially for a business to succeed, that could possibly be it. You're also going to pay some high price per square foot on a lot of your rent cost and, fixed expenses. So compare and contrast the two as far as what you've seen as far as a demand just of Fort Collins. Like, do you see the downtown Fort Collins area, like that density continuing to be supportive of your business and businesses around you?
Yeah, downtown, it's interesting. And when I was at Sonny's, at the Sunny Lip Steakhouse, I had experience downtown. So that was a good kind of intro before we opened Penrose. The warm weather downtown drives so many people down there. It is just absolutely remarkable.
Yeah.
And we know, it's the same at DC Oaks on the south side. When it's sunny out, people want to go out and enjoy the nice Colorado sunshine on a patio, but downtown, the winters down there it's tough. Those winters down in Old Town are tough. It's just really a destination for Northern Colorado. There's a lot of tourism that rolls through there. I think New Belgium and Odell's Brewing Company, those are big draws for people that come into town, and the brewing industry's got a big tourist attraction for our city. But yeah, Patrick, you're correct. The rents, there's no cheap rent in this town anymore. It's so you have to really do a good job and figure out, all right, is this juice going to be worth the squeeze? And we've got to figure out, hey, how can we figure out the square footage and what it takes to be profitable for us? I think the one thing that kind of sticks out for us at both locations is we've got a lot of patio seating, and those are rent free for us. So
which is unique to Fort Collins, because you go to Scottsdale, Arizona, and that ain't going to be the case. You're going to be paying for all that square. Yeah, you're going to be paying for that patio square footage. Yeah,
and I don't know why that is. Scottsdale's a year-round patio outdoor. Well, maybe not in the summer, but yeah, out here that makes a difference for us.
Yeah,
and so because what you're doing is basically, we can get as many tables out there as we can comfortably. Mm-hmm. And that was a little side deal from COVID that was really helpful for us at DC Oaks. Was we started with 5 tables on our south patio, and our landlord allowed us to, with the dining restrictions, we were able to move the gates back and our fencing, and they gave us permission to use that whole front plaza as our dining area. And
is the city of Fort Collins, because I know is it Linden Street, is that going to be permanent, some of those outdoor dining areas?
Yeah. That's a good question. Right? Yeah. So everyone's expanded patio permits expired yesterday. So, and it's different if you're on private property or public property. So I can't really speak for Linden Street. I know it's they're redoing that whole street. So I'm not sure if like Old Town Square is getting extended through, so it's more walking or whatnot. But it is, for us, it's a private property. So we've been granted the ability from our landlord to continue using that patio.
That's huge.
Yeah, it's been great. So, we see it. So Patrick, back to your question, the downtown difference is it's just a lot of weather driven sales. There's tourism. You see a little bit more of the impact Colorado State has on downtown because there's a lot of student housing around there. We're not really we don't market towards students at either of our restaurants.
No dollar shots or dollar beer nights?
Oh, yeah, I know, exactly. But we do love seeing the students. We see a lot of them when they come to town with their parents, lots of date nights, stuff like that at Penrose, which is nice. But yeah, it's just, it's been a little bit of a learning curve over the last 2 years. We opened down there during COVID, so we just couldn't really get a great idea about what that vibe and what the sales rhythms would be downtown until we were able to get out of all the partial dining and the restrictions that came with COVID. Yeah. So
is one of the big drivers to I don't know now Penrose menu. I don't know as well. I go to DC Oaks all the time. Is one of the big drivers the old PB&J burger.
Mm-hmm. You know it. Yeah.
Now, how did you guys develop? Now, did he develop that menu, or did you guys how did you guys develop that menu?
Yeah. So Tony Gray's our chef, and he's been doing it for 25 years, but he has a problem. He has a jalapeno addiction. So the first, he put it is so funny. He put this menu together and, it was, we were a couple months out from opening. He goes, all right, here's the menu, the recipes. I'm like, I start circling every time I see the word jalapeno. And I'm like, buddy, you have got jalapeno in every single menu item almost. And he goes, isn't it great? So we had it's always a work in progress. I think, I'll tell you kind of a cool story. I think it's a cool story, but when we opened DC Oaks, we had just the timing of everything it's like so many balls in the air and you're like, all right, we need the liquor license has to happen. The health inspection needs to get signed off. We're hiring people. We're hiring people that don't even know us. We did a private capital raise to raise funds for the build out and everything. We've got people that we don't know really very well that have loaned us a lot of money. So there's a lot of pressure with all these things. We can't place a liquor, beer, or wine order from any vendor until we have a liquor license. We had a brewery that hasn't shown up yet. That was delayed from the manufacturer. So we opened a brew club without a brewery 5 years ago. So it's all these different things. And so Tony says, he puts his menu together, and the way it usually works is you do mocks or soft opening where we invite people in so we can practice on you, and you get to eat for free, and the kitchen team gets practice making all the different menu items and whatnot. Well, the way it worked out is we got delayed a couple of days by the liquor or health department. So we had basically it's a VIP family and friends party, which should happen after we've done all the soft openings. Well, that was our first night. And so it was just a cocktail party and we just passed food around, and it was kind of a good way to see how this restaurant was going to work. The next 4 days we did soft opening, some mocks for lunch and dinner. So our last mock, we sent out some invitations to a couple companies that are right up the street, and that went viral. And there was probably 600 people that showed up that night, which was about twice as many as we could have handled. And we had a different menu that night from where we're at today. But what we did is it was such a hard shift, to put it nicely. And everybody was cool. They were understanding. But we sat down, my partners and I sat down after. I said, all right, we're taking 10 or 12 items off this menu before we do anything because it was too much. So kind of figured out, hey, let's narrow it down. I think some of those, we had tacos, we had a chicken fried steak, we had a couple different, a meatloaf dinner, a different fish item. I mean, there was some good stuff on there, but it was just too much production time on it. So we trimmed those off, and that was probably why we were able to be successful right out of the gates, is because we just were having it was probably 20% of the menu was gone. So that was kind of nice. And then over the last 5 years, we've kind of continued to figure out, all right, hey, people really like this. That PBJ burger, I mean, it's got a jalapeno on it, big jam, bacon.
What if you ask for extra jalapenos? What do you get then? Does he just come out and you get a handshake from the chef?
He would come give you a big hug. Yeah. He can't cook enough jalapenos. But anyways, that menu is a work in progress. And I think our next step right now is we probably will trim off a few items, which will be difficult to do because everything's, there's some fan favorites out there that maybe aren't like the high sellers, but they're still pretty popular. And then we'll start adding some new menu items on either weekly or monthly, just as like a limited special that we think folks would enjoy. So, and I'm sure there'll be some jalapenos and a few of those. Yeah.
I love it.
Really, it's going to be great.
One of my last questions for you is, I don't know if you remember, we had a conversation at one of the Ram Strikes event, and we were talking about, is Fort Collins ready for like a $60 steak? And you told me that story about going to Chicago with the chef. Patrick is amazing, and his real estate company right now there's people from all over. I mean, everybody's coming from California. No, they're coming from everywhere. Boise, New Jersey.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, is Fort Collins ready for, just a super high end $60 steak? I mean, I feel like we're trending in that direction, but
I think, when I was involved with the Sunny Lubick Steakhouse through the end of 2021. And, it's the new ownership group there is nails. They know fine dining, they know steakhouse really well. The cost of beef, I think, ready or not, you're going to have a $60 steak because of price increases.
I just had I had a New York strip. It was, I think, $1.50 for, I think it was my cost, and I got it at Lucky. So it was a nice, high $40.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, it's kind of remarkable. I could run through so many products with you, but even a pound of chicken was over $9.50 a month ago. $9.50 for a pound of chicken. I'm like, it was more than salmon.
Yeah.
I think if you're talking about a $60 steak though, Chris, as far as, that experience that you would expect to get with that, I absolutely think that Fort Collins is ready for that. The growth out here, it is amazing that I think a lot of folks just automatically think, oh, it's a lot of California moving out here. That's true. There is a lot of California, but to your point, there's so many, from all over the country. And our staff here and downtown, I think it's partially due to the university is just a great school and brings in folks from all over the country. But
healthcare system, they talked to somebody from New Jersey today before this call. Wife's going to get a job in the healthcare system here.
Yeah. It's really all over. And what are those people, the people from California, they couldn't be happier. They're getting a house at a fraction of the cost that they were paying out there. The quality of life. We know all the stuff about what makes Fort Collins great. And I think, you won't, I sure hope you never see a $60 steak at DC Oaks or Penrose, because that'll mean things are going haywire. But our goal is to keep things, in that kind of between the rails of making sure that everyone feels like, hey, you got good value, not only on the quality of the product, but also on the menu price. That's kind of our goal here. So,
that's awesome.
Yeah.
Well, we want to be respectful of your time, and obviously you're a brew house, but one of the last questions, Chris, did you have anything else? I know you said the last question.
No, this is, Gerard, I gotta tell you, man, we let these conversations just go, and like, I'm writing down notes and everything like that. So when we launch this, and it's like, just the whole business side is fascinating, and how you are. Actually, I do have one last question and we'll wrap up. You mentioned, the food shortages and the crisis that's going on. And that is Like, are you worried about that with the wheat and what's going on in Ukraine and how all that's going to be affected? Because I've listened to a couple podcasts, and we can make this brief about there is going to be a problem later this year about food shortages. Is that something you're thinking about? You're preparing for? And then we'll wrap it up.
Yeah, I try not to worry too much about stuff I can't control.
It's not the three. Yep, it's not the three.
Yeah, but it does affect our business, and we do have a little bit of experience with having to deal with any COVID just created such a stress on our industry, a lot of industries, but for our industry, we had no truck drivers, so transportation, and they're still struggling to fill that. There's no warehouse help. And a lot of different factors go into that. But what that did is it really created kind of a lot of stuff downstream where like the meat processing plants, they weren't producing as much as they could because they couldn't have people working right next to each other. I think COVID went through a Tyson plant and shut them down for like a week. Mm-hmm. And that's a remarkable amount of production that just gets eliminated from the entire pipeline supplying grocery
and I don't realize how that Tyson plant getting shut down and wherever it was affects the food in Fort Collins. I don't, sometimes I don't put those two dots together.
So, yeah, and I can't remember if it was Tyson. I'm not sure if it was Tyson, but I do know there was a big meat plant that got shut down for a bit.
JBS.
But there's ways to kind of get through it. And you just have to be, one thing that I do like about our company is we're pretty flexible and we're able to be nimble. So, hey, if we can't get lobster, we can just take the lobster roll off the menu and reprint them. We print everything here, so it makes it easy for us. We got a great partner in Shamrock Foods who they just keep us up to date on everything that's going on in the market. And they come to the table with solutions for us. So,
that's nice.
Hey, chicken was $9.50 a pound. Here's a different chicken. It's $6. It's, but I really don't have a crystal ball to see what this end of summer and fall is going to look like. I hope it's kind of overblown because sometimes, in the media, things get kind of hyped up and maybe they don't quite come to fruition at the level that you're told they're going to. So fingers crossed on that. Yeah.
The name of this episode is going to be called "We Have a Jalapeno Problem." That's it. Going to be that.
We do have a jalapeno problem. Not enough.
But Patrick, Gerard, we're going to wrap you up, but we do have a final question for you, Patrick, if you want to fire away.
To tie it together. Now, obviously, like you were saying, maybe one of the last places you want to actually grab a beer to enjoy is Penrose or DC Oats, only because you're going to be so business-minded focused and you want to build a cool environment for everybody. So not including Penrose or DC Oaks, in Fort Collins, where are you going to go on a Friday afternoon, sunny, you're taking the day off to enjoy yourself a beer? Where are you going?
Sunny. I will tell you the best beer I had this weekend was on my front porch during that rainstorm. I hadn't done that in a minute and I just sat there and it was good. But sunny afternoon. I think the CB Potts Collindale patio is awesome. Odell, their patio is so cool. Love the New Belgium vibe. Let's see. I think not necessarily a beer, but a nice dinner would be that Austin's Patio on Mountain. Cafe Vino, like that place over there.
Cafe Vino survived. I was worried they weren't going to make it, but I think
yeah, it's a cool place. I like their menu over there.
Amazing desserts too.
Yeah. They do. But Sunny Lubick Steakhouse always has a special place in my heart. So it's okay to go down there and, post up on a super hot summer day and, just stay cool and grab a drink at the bar there. So, yeah. But those are some of the places I like to go. Yeah.
Well, Chris, if you want to take us out, my man, I appreciate you, Gerard. Thank you for your time.
Yeah, thank you, guys.
Yeah, thanks so much. And, if we'll bring you back for sure. If you ever got any new restaurants, you got to open up, get crazier. But
that would be crazy.
Well, hey, we'll let you go. I know you're busy. I know the phone's been ringing throughout the episode.
I know. Sorry about that, fellas. Yeah.
It doesn't matter. It's all good. It's all
right.
good. But Gerard, thanks again, man. We appreciate it, and we'll see you soon.
Yeah, appreciate you guys. All right.
All right.
Talk soon.
Take care.
Thanks. Bye-bye.